Today, we're going to talk about a company that didn't just disrupt an industry, it did something way crazier. Again and again, it chose to disrupt itself. It's a total masterclass in survival. This is the story of Netflix. So let's just start with a number, $50 million. Now, that's a lot of money, for sure. But in the grand story of business, this specific $50 million, it might just be the most important number ever. It represents a single moment, a single decision that basically separated the future from the past. And this was the reaction to that $50 million offer? Laughter. Yep. In a boardroom in Dallas, Texas, one of the biggest companies on the planet literally laughed a startup founder right out of the room. It was a laugh that would end up costing them, well, everything. To really get why they laughed, we have to rewind the clock to 1997. Two guys, Reed Hastings and Marc Randolph, they had this simple idea. What if we rented DVDs by mail, right? No driving to the store, no standing in line, and, this is the big one, no late fees. This was Netflix, a tiny little startup with a huge idea going up against an absolute titan. And believe me, Blockbuster was a titan. Around the year 2000, they were pulling in $6 billion a year from over 9,000 stores. And Netflix? Oh, they were just hemorrhaging money with less than 300,000 subscribers. You know, this wasn't just David versus Goliath. This was more like an ant versus a steamroller. Which brings us right back to that legendary meeting. The company was burning through cash, so a pretty desperate Reed Hastings decides to go to the big guy and make an offer he figured they couldn't possibly refuse. So the year is 2000. Hastings flies down to Dallas and he lays it all out. Buy Netflix for $50 million. We'll become Blockbuster.com. We'll be your online arm. I mean, it was a golden ticket for this giant to instantly own the future of its entire industry. But you know what? Blockbuster didn't see a future. They saw a joke. This little money-losing niche internet company asking for $50 million? The CEO, John Antioco, and his team were so dismissive, they apparently struggled to keep a straight face. The meeting was over before it even really began. And the reversal of fortunes? Well, it was absolute. Just a decade later, Blockbuster was filing for bankruptcy. Today, there's exactly one of their stores left on the entire planet. And that little $50 million company? It's now worth over $250 billion. That has to go down as the most expensive laugh in history. But here's the thing you gotta understand. Netflix didn't win just because it was online. It won because it solved a massive problem that everybody, and I mean everybody, hated. They just built a better, more friendly business model from the ground up. $800 million? That's how much money Blockbuster was making every single year from late fees. Think about that. Their business model was literally built on punishing their customers for being a day or two late. It was their golden goose, for sure, but it was also their Achilles heel. Netflix's model was the complete opposite. It was so simple, so predictable, totally stress-free. You just pay one flat fee every month, get your movies in the mail, and send them back whenever you feel like it. No penalties, ever. It was a revolution, plain and simple. And on top of that, they layered on this other piece of pure genius, an algorithm they called Cinematch. See, Blockbuster had to have thousands of copies of the newest big hit movie. But Netflix, their algorithm could dig through this massive library and recommend some obscure indie film that you'd end up loving just as much. This long-tail strategy made their entire catalog valuable, not just the new stuff. So by the mid-2000s, those little red envelopes were a roaring success. Netflix had beaten Blockbuster at its own game. And then they did something completely insane. They decided to kill their own winning formula. So let's pause on that for a second. They'd made it, right? The company was finally making money. The business was working perfectly. What do you do when you finally have a booming billion-dollar business? You kill it. In 2007, Netflix launched a streaming service. And you have to remember, back then, internet speeds were terrible, the selection of movies was tiny, and it was competing directly with their own successful DVD business. But Reed Hastings knew that physical discs were doomed, and he chose to eat his own company before someone else did. And this pattern, this idea of disrupting yourself, would define their very next move. As streaming got bigger, Netflix realized they had a new problem. The studios they were licensing from could just pull their shows and movies whenever they wanted. So Netflix decided it was time to evolve. Again,
Instead of just renting other people's content, they were going to make it themselves. And in 2013, they placed an absolutely unprecedented $100 million bet on a show called House of Cards. They ordered 2 full seasons without ever seeing a pilot. How could they be so sure? Well, their data told them that their users who love the original British show also love the director, David Fincher, and the star, Kevin Spacey. It was this huge, data-driven gamble, and it paid off, big time. With their own original content, Netflix pretty much seemed unstoppable. So naturally, they set their sights on the entire planet, which led to their most audacious move yet. And right after that, their most dangerous crisis. Get this, on one single day in 2016, Netflix went live in 130 new countries, all at the same time. It was just an incredible feat. And this global push is what gave us all these worldwide hits, like Squid Game from Korea and Money Heist from Spain. It created a truly global entertainment network. But by 2022, oh man, the story had turned sour. Subscriber growth completely slammed to a halt. The stock price crashed by 75%, and over 100 million households were sharing passwords. Wall Street basically declared that the streaming wars were over and that Netflix had lost. But what did they do? Once again, Netflix adapted. They did what a lot of people thought was impossible. They actually cracked down on password sharing. Then they launched a cheaper plan with ads to bring in new people. And they refocused on making great stuff. And you know what? It worked. They were back. So when you really look back at the entire journey, I mean, from a tiny startup in a red envelope to this global behemoth, one really powerful lesson just stands out. And you can see it right here. At every single one of these key moments, going from DVDs to streaming, from streaming to creating original shows, from being a US company to a global one, Netflix was always willing to just tear up its own playbook and start all over again. In the end, the lesson is brutally clear, isn't it? Survival isn't about having the best thing on the market today. It's about having the guts to get rid of that successful thing in order to build whatever is going to replace it tomorrow. Netflix didn't just survive, it thrived because it was constantly preparing for its own extinction. And that just leaves you with one final question. When you look around at all the dominant, seemingly untouchable companies of today, you just have to wonder, which one of them is so comfortable, so confident in its own success, that it can't hear the faint sound of a $50 million laugh echoing from the past?